Well, thank you, Sam. And whenever you think about that world of conferencing and collaboration that Brad, Sam, and Sarah were talking about, there's a lot of conversations that have to happen. One of those conversations specifically exists in the actual physical conference room itself, and that is acoustics. So to talk about that, I brought on my friend Rebecca again last year, 2 years in a row. This is ridiculous. We got to talk about it again. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me back on. I appreciate it.
You know, Rebecca, one of the places where you see clash from time to time, especially in AV design, is the conference room, because we want the fishbowl with all sorts of glass, or we want stained concrete. And the challenge with that, as any good AV engineer knows, is balancing acoustics, not only from a sound dispersion standpoint, but from a microphone pickup standpoint. How are we having that conversation right now?
It's a difficult conversation to have, practically, right? And this is one of those spaces where I understand the ideal situation is you get in early, you try to stop some of the fish bowls and the glass and the whatever, but we always know that that doesn't actually happen in the real world. So the best thing you can do is understand the acoustics enough to deal with what you have. And that, and conferencing and collaboration is not a space that we tend to invest a lot into acoustics because it's a very quotidian space, right? But we can do so many things, small things, to improve our intelligibility and ease, the ease of listening, right? It's so much easier to pay attention during a collaboration session if you're not straining to understand what's going on.
Well, look, I think it's really easy from a user standpoint whenever we're talking about remote work and collaboration, one device, one person. But the reality is when we step into these larger spaces, it's one to many, right? So you've got different people aligned in different sections of the room, different distances from the speakers. How do you build that into sort of the design process with an understanding of I've got to have different people in different places with different pickup patterns?
There's unfortunately no one size fits answer to that. However, the thing that I will say is the number one way to increase your intelligibility and make this easier is your one-to-one, right? One mic, one talker, one microphone, yes? When you can't do that, here's my graphic right here. We're gonna try to do anything that we can to decrease these distances between the speaker and the listener and between the talker and the microphone. And that is the easiest and cheapest thing that you can do, especially when you're working with architects that are so concerned about aesthetics and stuff like that. That's the easiest sell is, okay, you know, you have this beautiful big glass room, we're going to have to do something. This is the easiest fix. And a lot of times they will work with you on stuff like that because they don't take the acoustics into effect when they're designing the rooms themselves.
Well, I'm curious, you know, we've obviously seen over the last few years an advent of technology and a lot of AI tools that really can leverage the actual tuning of the room, make that process a little bit easier. What are some of the technologies that you're seeing that people are utilizing to help make some of those experiences a little bit better?
Oh, this is where I'm going to go a little off script here, Ben. So I am a huge proponent of there's only so many things that technology can fix. There are some spaces, there are some acoustical situations where there's not a computer in the world that can fix that. However, by going back to the basics, understanding how the sound is actually functioning within the space, then we can use the tools that are available to us. Obviously, your acoustic echo cancellation when you're talking about video conferencing, those are really easy to use if you understand what they're doing. Obviously, increasing your absorption in the room, putting in reflectors, diffusers, and those can be aesthetically pleasing, right? Your architect can help with those things, and they can really improve a space for not a lot of money.
You know, Rebecca, we've got a lot of folks finding their way into the industry for the first time, many of them through the world of pro audio, but many of them not, right? Many of them engineer-minded, installation-minded, hardware manufacturer-minded. Where would you recommend that folks who are maybe less familiar with the acoustical physics world, where should they start from a resource standpoint?
Take my class. That's easy. So
you're here all week though, right?
I am here all week. I'm teaching a couple of classes. My biggest thing is learn that audio is a physical medium. It is affected by our environment. It is affected by everything. And go back to the basics. There's a couple of, look at JBL, I don't know if I'm allowed to mention it, but they have a really good book, the Sound Engineering Handbook. Philip Giddings wrote a great book. There's one on architectural acoustics that I teach during my class that lets you understand how sound works with the environment, absorption coefficient, refraction, all of that. So just find some books and start looking into it. And you will become so aware once you understand of your environments. You'll start hearing things that you didn't before. You'll start paying more attention, and then you'll learn how it reacts.
Well, look, last question. Obviously, a lot of people are having to have this conversation. Folks maybe who have stakeholders externally who live in that architecture design world who may not know as much about the acoustical side. What are some small and incremental updates that folks can make to their rooms to help really achieve that acoustical clarity?
Small and incremental. I don't like small and incremental. I like big. But I will say just maintaining current technology, right? A microphone from 1987, yeah, it's still technically the same as the mics now, but we have better control, inside. So making sure to keep your technology current, also making sure not to neglect the space itself, because what if you did put up those sound absorbers 10 years ago? As they degrade, it's going to change how they affect the sound. So make sure that you're paying attention to and upkeeping the physical space as well.
Well, Rebecca, look, you already plugged it, but you're here all week teaching and training folks. You've done a great service to the community, especially for folks who are interested in that world and beyond. Rebecca, not only thanks for coming on, but thank you so much for being a dedicated teacher.
Always. Thanks for having me.